My career to date's quite interesting. I started way back after leaving university. I went straight to Cricket Australia and worked in cricket at Cricket Australia a long time ago, back in 1987. When I straight out of university, straight to Cricket Australia as a first job. That's where I sort of started my career at that stage. Cricket Australia was a relatively small organisation. I think we had something like 10 staff members then. I can recall it quite well because it was just about the time that Australia was leaving to go over to England to have an Ashes series. So it was quite sort of recall it quite well to where we are now with an Ashes series on the verge of that this summer here in England. So as general manager of commercial ICC, it's a very broad role. It encompasses various facets of the organisation, including the media and digital rights, the sponsorship and licensing rights, marketing and promotion of our events, and event management. It also encompasses the exploitation of those rights. So it's the exploitation and delivery of the rights that we've sold. Having started back at Cricket Australia as a very small organisation, but at that time a very professional organisation, that sort of gave me a first stint in my work career of how organisations and sporting organisations should operate. And that was a really, really good insight to an experience to enable me to. I went to ICC some 6 years later as a secondee originally. It gave me great experience to going into an organisation at that stage, ICC, which had only 4 staff members. So it was very similar to when I started at Cricket Australia. It enabled me, those experiences at Cricket Australia enabled me to assist and develop my role within ICC. One of the interesting aspects of cricket as a sport is the fact that it's so culturally diverse. So we have countries from South Africa, sort of across to here in the UK, throughout Asia, to the Caribbean, to New Zealand. So it's such a wide, diverse culture of countries involved in playing the sport. And as an administrator and a professional administrator in cricket, you really need to be aware of all those cultural diversities across the broad spectrum of the way you operate and the way you deal with people in the cricketing world. Um, as a as I was growing up as a kid, I was passionate about sport, whether it was Aussie rules, whether it was cricket or just any other sport that I could play at that particular time. It was always part of my DNA as such. So when I left school and went to university, I originally started studying the sports science degree, of which I spent 3 years at in Melbourne, and then from there went to Cricket Australia. So I think the key to it is to be absolutely passionate about sport. That's where I started as a child, went through that phase at university, and then into my career. I've only ever worked in sport, and that's sort of something that I've been passionate about all my life. I think as a starting point, you need to be passionate about sport. I think if you're passionate about what you do and about sport, if sport is what you do, that's a very good place to start. I think you also need to be very focused on being successful and very driven to be successful. You need the passion. You need to be very driven, and if you are very driven, you'll start to see the rewards of that success. I think um, you need to be prepared to accept change. Sport has changed dramatically during my career. I think you need to be open to change, whether that's through technology or the various other changes that sport's taken over the last 20 odd years. I think it's vitally important. You need to also to be prepared to listen to people, listen to different ideas, and be aware of the different developments that are taking place throughout the sporting world at any given time. I think they're sort of some fairly key points that you need to focus on to be a leader. I also think you need to listen to people and then to understand there's different cultures that we operate with, and to understand that not always one way is the way that works everywhere. Culturally, different ways you can achieve the same, operating differently in different cultures to achieve the same success that you're after. Probably, I've worked with a lot of very, very good administrators in the sporting world in my time, but probably the one that I admire the most is Dr. Ali Barker, who was the former head of Cricket South Africa. Dr. Barker was a exceptionally a person in that he captained South Africa was a professional cricketer, as a player. From there, he was head of the South African Cricket Board during the apartheid era, and then once the changes occurred in South Africa, he was then able to transition himself to becoming head of the new cricket board. And I thought, for someone to be able to do that, you need to be a fairly special person, and Ali certainly was that. I had the very good fortune of working very closely with him during the Cricket World Cup that was staged in South Africa, and certainly one of the highlights of my career.